feel like they change things, like, every time you update an app. I'm that old now where I'm like, "Crap, I don't know how to do anything anymore." Every time my app updates, I just updated a bunch of stuff on my phone, and, like, Instagram looks weird, and Canva looks different, and I'm like, "Oh, this is so challenging." But it's okay, we'll figure it out. Okay, so today we are talking about planning for success. And I was like, oh, I'll put together some slides, whatever else. But I was like, you know what? We don't need to put together some slides. I have my notes right here that we're going to stick to, and so that way we can stay on time. And you guys are going to be journaling to a decent amount, a certain extent today. So I want to make sure that you have some paper nearby, something to write with nearby, and that this is going to go somewhere that you can like actually really remember it and pay attention to it as well. Okay, so I want to ask you a couple questions to get started with. Who has been here for over a year? Raise your hand. Over a year. Yep. Okay. It's like a 50-50 maybe. Um, okay. Who has ever felt overwhelmed in this business? Okay. Um, who has felt periods of burnout? Okay. And so I was thinking today, because I was thinking about this, I saw this, and I told Christy, I was like, I want to lead a call. But then yesterday, last week, we had dentist appointments because it would have been perfect if it was before the month or whatever, right? But I was like, screw it, whatever. It has to be this week. But I've been wanting to do this for a couple of weeks because I got an email and it talked about that graphic that I put in the advertisement for the call. And it talked about how, like, okay, these next 4 months are going to fly by. They're going to fly by. And do you want to be on New Year's Day at a place where you're setting the same goals that you've set every single year and you haven't hit them again? Right. Everyone's shaking their head. I would hope that you would be shaking your head, because no, nobody wants to be in the same exact place and not have accomplished, any of their goals. And here's the thing, we tend to set big goals. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That's part of being in this business. It's good to set big goals, hairy, scary goals and stuff like that. But we need to be at least making progress towards those goals. And a lot of times what happens is we get overwhelmed, we get burnt out because we get on this all or nothing mentality. And so one of the things that we're going to be focusing on planning for success for the rest of this year today is talking about, um, are we are we taking periods of intention to really focus on small sustainable steps, building habits to get there, and then taking seasons where we might have push seasons, but it's not like this all in, and then I freak out, and then I back away, and then I run away because life is crazy and whatever else, right? We want to build for long-term success. We don't want to be that all or nothing business. We don't want to be all or nothing in our health and fitness. We don't want to be all or nothing in anything, really. I mean, do we? So, so while I hear like the whole I'm going all in on this, and that's great. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'm saying to be cautious of where that gets you, right? And what you're building in your business and what you want long term in this business for success. So, okay, I thought it was really cool. I heard on the National Wake Up Call, if you listen to it, I always listen to it after the fact. So if you haven't yet, whatever, it was great. But creator or consumer, right? Are we being a creator or are we being a consumer in our social media? And I know I fall into both of those categories. And it's like, but where's the sliding scale at currently, right? Like, that's one of the things that made me start thinking about this. So, are you being a creator or a consumer? That's part of planning for our success. And then I heard on today, listening to the Daily Fire, are you a reactor or are you a builder? And so are you constantly reacting to all the things that are happening around you, like in your business? Um, are you working? A lot of times you'll hear the whole saying, like, if you're working in your business, like you're working on the day-to-day stuff, that's really important. Obviously, we have to master that and get those habits built in, right? But are you just reacting and you're like responding and this and that, and oh, I gotta do this, and oh, I gotta get that, oh, I gotta go create this? Or are you actually building? Are you taking time to actually work on your business, not just in your business? And so things like that can be really important because a lot of times then we're just like winging it. Are we winging it? If we're just a reactor and we're not focused and we're working just in our business, we can just be winging it and we say like, "Oh yes, sure, her goal sounds great. That sounds good. I'll go with this, whatever else." And again, not that that is bad because in the beginning we come in and we're like, "What the heck is emerald? What is diamond? How what's the bonus? I don't understand this." That's okay to tack on to other people's goals and stuff. Absolutely. But there has to be time where it comes into ownership and like, why are you here? What are you here for? Does this align with what you want to be doing? And so, if you want to have success in this business, whatever that looks like to you, again, success is different for everyone. So, when I say success, it is not like this narrow term. It's going to be different for Sarah and it's going to be different for Lindsay and it's going to be different for Katie and it's going to be different for all of us, right? So again, even thinking like what is success to me? Like, okay, so we're going to go like deep and we're going to think about those things, but then we're also going to be intentional today to plan out some steps in order to move and make progress towards those deeper thoughts of success and stuff like that. Okay? So, it's great to have big goals. It's great to have all of that kind of stuff. But what are the intentional steps that are going to get us there? And how do we shift from that all or nothing, that overwhelm, that feeling of burnout and stuff like that? It's taking, and this is the thing I always say, it's not very sexy or whatever. I've said this in my business and in just fitness in general forever. If you guys don't know, sorry, 2 seconds really quick, I'll go back. My background is fitness. I've been in fitness. This makes me sound really old, but I'm not, right? So, but for over 20 years, almost over 25 years, I've been in fitness, nutrition, helping people in some sort of way, shape, or form. I started, went to school for exercise phys, and was a personal trainer and did group exercise instruction. I made it my full-time job. I was in management. I did all the things, you guys, because like when you're in fitness, you kind of have to in order to make actual full-time job work. But I did that for years, and then I had my first baby. I have three, and I was like, dang. I mean, I adjusted and I created my own schedule, but I was working around everyone else's schedules. And just my mom was never home when I was growing up. I was always a latchkey kid. I would go home after school and watch hours and hours of soap operas and whatever else, hang out with my grandmother for a long time. So for me, it just really hit differently. Like I thought I had freedom and stuff in my time, but when I was like missing out on like seeing him wake up every morning and I was missing out, I was like, what else am I going to miss? And I don't want to miss those things anymore. What can I do? And this opportunity was in front of me for a while and I thought I was above it. Um, as a lot of trainers often do. and, and so I finally realized, oh my gosh, God has put this thing in front of me. Hello, he's been hitting me over the head with it, and I've just been too stubborn to see it. And so I finally saw the opportunity for what it was. And I was like, okay, I align with this company and what they're doing and the way that they have integrity and everything else. And so I'm going to go for it. And it's been the most incredible blessing. I've been home for years and years and years now. With my kids, I've been able to, sometimes this is a blessing, sometimes it's I question myself, but like homeschool them. I've been able to be like the other day I was sitting on Tuesday at my nobody goes to their 13-year-old's flag football practice anymore. I was the only parent there. But I was sitting there, my husband's also the coach, so it's okay, but I was sitting there watching, and I was like, "I get to see this. I get to be a part of this," and the reason why, like, I wanna relish in these because, oh my gosh, I have a 13-year-old. I'm like, "How did that happen?" It goes by so stinking fast, and so I've had the blessing of this business because I've been intentional in small steps over time that have built long term, and yes. So that's what we're here and that's what we're focusing on. That's my story of what I've been in. So with fitness, that's what I've always focused on with people. It's not like the big sexy thing of like, okay, we do have things where you can get incredible results in 3 days, in 21 days, in a small amount of time. That is possible. But what I really tend to focus on in my business and in my fitness and with people is taking those 1 to 2 seemingly small habits, those steps, and stacking them and building them over time. And that's how I've grown in so many different aspects. Again, my faith, my homeschooling, my being a mom in general, my getting better as a wife, my building this business, in my health and fitness. It's always been one or two small steps that I have looked to master at a time. And I don't master them quickly often. It's consistency in the little things. That's really what it comes down to. Okay. So we're going to do a quarter, like an evaluation of like kind of what's been going on. And then we're going to make a plan and we're going to write out a couple of small steps. So let me ask you this, raise your hand. Do you, and no shame or anything, like there was lots of times where I did not do this in my business. Do you do any kind of like a quarterly evaluation or an evaluation of your business? Like where you're at, are you reaching your goals? How much more does it look like you have to get there? Do you do any of that kind of stuff? Raise your hand or sort of maybe a few people. Okay. So there's lots of ways that you can go about this. And Brendan Burchard, our mindset guy, he talks about this as well. But even doing like a weekly evaluation, right? So I do this with my clients. What is your win for the week? What did you struggle with? If there was anything, did you have any struggles? Okay, and out of those struggles, we're going to take one thing that we're going to focus on and work on in the next week. Because one, we need to celebrate the wins. That's why I was saying, Colleen, you're leading up into this, what we're going to talk about. You need to celebrate the wins because so often we focus on what? The negative. And we need to say, okay, I have grown so much in this. I have gotten better in this. So when we look at our business overall, a lot of times I think people don't evaluate their business because they're like, well, I'm afraid of the things that I haven't accomplished yet. And realizing that I stink or whatever else or something like that. We're fearful. But that's why it's important to be consistently evaluating those wins, right? Because you have had wins. You've had wins. If you've helped one person, you've had a win. If you have grown in your mindset and the way that you approach your nutrition, your fitness, your time management, anything else like that, you've had a win. We're all starting on different levels. We all have different backgrounds and baggage and whatever else that we bring to the table. So it's important to focus on those wins. And while community and racing together is very valuable and encouraging and important, we're not just trying to keep up with the Joneses, though. You have to also make sure that you are in your lane and you're focusing on what is best for you and your family and why you started this in the first place, right? So those weekly evaluations are really great, and also monthly evaluations. I use the Rise Up Planner. It's by one of our partners who created it. You can get it on Amazon. It's just really fits my brain well. And it gives you, like, you're constantly writing your goals and your actions. And I have my tracker right in there. I have my planner for my posts and stuff this week. And so this allows me to look at my month. Did my month turn out the way that I wanted it to? Did I accomplish what I set out to, what I said I would? And so then I look back and I say, okay, well, if I didn't, why not? Well, maybe it's just time to buck up and be like, oh, I didn't do the work or whatever, right? I've had those months where it's just been chaos and this has been placed on the back burner. Or I've just been skating by. Or maybe it's like, well, I need to shift. And what do I need to shift? And so if we're never looking at that, we're not going to know that we need to do that. We're not going to take action in that. And then we're going to stay stuck longer and be like, well, why is it not working? Oh, it just doesn't work for me. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a crap excuse. This can work for anybody if you put in the work. It might take some longer to figure things out. Like I told you, the whole computers, technology, whatever hurts my brain and it just makes me feel old. And it takes me so long to figure that stuff out. But I'm here and I'm committed to doing it. People always say, "Oh, I figured you'd be good at it because you're always on social media and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, right. I'm not good at it. I just do it and get by." So weekly, monthly, and then I always think like quarterly because you know what? If we're only doing like once a year, we're setting our goals at the beginning of the year and then we don't look back at them. till the next year, crap, there could have been a lot of things that we could have shifted and adjusted and changed to make more progress along the way instead of looking back after the fact, right? So that's why we're addressing it now. So weekly, monthly, and quarterly, I think, are really important to kind of gauge where you're at. So this is what we're going to do first. First, we're going to think about our personal journey because we have to be proof that the products work, right? We have to be on our journey. Now, that does not mean we're perfect or anything else. I've seen a lot of posts lately where I feel like on my team at least that people have said like, oh, I've slid off last month. I went and fell off the deep end, whatever else. Like life happens. Okay, great. That happens to a lot of people too. So people can always relate to wherever you're at in your journey, and no one's expecting perfection or anything else. But like, where are you at on your journey? Your journey is the most important. And so I want you to think about this, and this is something that you're going to write down. What are you focusing on your personal health, fitness, nutrition, mindset, your growth journey over the next 4 months for the rest of the year? Do you have a plan? So I'll give you a quick example. My plan is I've hit that age where I think it's my hormones. I haven't gotten them tested, so I don't know for sure. But like I started dealing with some weird stuff and, you know, exhaustion and I put on like 5 pounds like that. And I was just really fluffy and not fitting into my clothes and just not feeling good. And, you know, wow. Someone might not be able to relate to that because they're like, oh, 5 pounds, good for you, or whatever. Like there's other people who have different stories. This is my story, and there will be people out there who can relate to it, right? And so I've started leaning in over the last probably year and a half onto this whole hormone thing. Praise the Lord that Autumn's coming out with something. We've been waiting and asking for this forever. And so I'm excited. I'm leaning into that. I am taking my own personal balance of lifting weights 3 days a week and doing lava 3 days a week. That has been really amazing for my body, which I never thought I would love lava, but my body has leaned out. I have less inflammation. I feel really freaking good. And so I think I was just higher cortisol levels or whatever else. So again, that's my journey. I'm going to be focusing on that and doing that for myself as we lead into Belle Vital and talking about like all the hormone things and also really focusing on my protein levels, my fiber, and my added sugars, and looking at those and like not all at once, because to me that's overwhelming to have to track everything, but slowly taking that. So that's just an example. Now everyone is not at the same place that I'm at. So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes just to write down or think about, well, what am I focusing on in the next 4 months? What does that look like for me? Okay, that was 2 minutes because I set a timer. So, all right, cool. So I would love to have like a couple of you say like what your focus was um in the chat. And I know that, so Sarah already said ingredients and food, so many reasons, but the top of the list is helping my son control his ADHD naturally. Amazing, amazing, because that is like a real legit thing. All right. And so she's going to be focusing on that these next 4 months, really diving into that. That can take a lot of time to dive into that stuff. There's a whole, like, that's opening up a can of worms, but it's a really good thing to get into. And so, a lot of moms will be able to relate to that. I can't tell you how many moms that I know. Like, I have a friend who literally at a Labor Day barbecue the other day that I was at, she was saying like there was cupcakes that somebody else brought with these crazy dye frosting on top, and she's like, "Oh crap." She's like, but she knows her daughter won't have that because she knows that she goes crazy if she has like food dye, red dye especially, or whatever, right? And so it's like incorporating that. But like there's so many moms out there that need to know that or are working on that, and you can relate to them in that kind of way. And then incorporating, I was saying, Shakeology snacks for your family and stuff into that, how we don't have any of that garbage in there, and that can be really beneficial. And this is one way that we can make it the transition smoother, so it's not just like, well, eat an apple instead. Like, what kid really wants to hear that? I'm sorry, that's usually not how it goes. So that's awesome. And so that can be, yeah, that can be really helpful. So that's her journey. My focus, Colleen says, my focus is gut health protocol. She needs to balance her diet in an effort to rebalance and maintain smooth and active gut. It will also be the foundation for being ready for Belvital. Yes. So yeah, what does that look like? And is that sharing like your food on a regular basis and what you're eating? Are you more of like a meal prepper, and do you do that and you share that once a week? Or are you like a throw it together kind of person like I am? And like I never thought I would share my food because I was like, my food usually looks terrible and it's thrown together in like 15 minutes or less. This is not like IG worthy, right? But then I realized like people actually want to see this because not everyone's a meal prepper, and people want to know like how can you make things easy and simple yet still healthy and whatever else. So like stop telling yourself you can't or you're not whatever, and you can, right? Shell says, I hope to finish my 90 days sober and never again drink to calm my emotions. Yes. So really tapping into that. I told Lindsay about this too, because Lindsay has a journey with that, and a recovery journey. And I was like, dude, you need to tap into that. So like, it's not like you can only help those people, but there's so many people. And I'll tell you this, even like heading into the hormones, whatever else, like, and there's even like some kind of gene, I forget what it is, but there's like some kind of gene that where you hit a certain age and like you can't process alcohol compared to the average person better, so it like hits you differently. And like what the recommended, like it's like 2 drinks a week, and can people really stick to that if they're really doing it, and how what that does to your body and all this different kind of stuff. And so that is a whole avenue that you can dive down. And so what does that look like on that journey? I don't know if this is the correct terminology. Maybe this is terrible to say. I don't know how you say it, but like, I don't know if you need to like necessarily replace the habit or whatever, but like in place of that, what are you doing? So instead of that, I'm learning to take care of my body through X, Y, and Z. And this is what is helping me when I am feeling stressed out. I instead will go do my lava, or I'll go do for a walk or a hike or whatever else, and incorporating those kinds of things and connecting with people over that. Yes. Okay, so that's a couple of them. We'll look at the rest of these. I'm glad that you guys have these out and figured out. That's really important. Okay, so your journey is the most important. I'm sure you've heard that on national makeup calls before. People have said if you are feeling stagnant or stuck in your business, you often have to just address where you're at in your personal health journey, right? Where you're at and what you need to work on and get excited about it again, right? So a lot of times that's our first focus that we need to focus on. So that's really important, and that's why we're working on it. What I want you to really make sure that you're considering when you're talking about this stuff and thinking about it. So you're going to take this and kind of dive in a little bit deeper after this call as well. Hopefully we're heading into the weekend, so you can take 20 minutes to do that. It's on your journey. Okay. So that let's take the the sober journey, right? So what does that mean, right? So you're diving into that. That's really important. That's where your focus is right now. But what are the steps that you're going to take over September, October, November, December, or the first few steps that will take you in line, and then you can decide what the next ones are from there? What does that look like? Does that look like you want to be working out more days than not? Does that mean you're going to be doing a 20-minute workout, or is an hour for you because you need that focus and that drive? And what does that look like? What are the actual steps? So the big focus is the sober journey. What are the small steps that are going to get you there, right? What are the small steps that you need to work on to get there? So the big focus is the gut health, right? Overall, my gut health. Okay, great. But what does that mean? Okay, are you doing 4 weeks for everybody? Are you doing lava? Are you doing are you doing something else? Like, are you walking? Are you weightlifting? Are you taking the supplements? Are you just using Shakeology? What has been helpful? Are you making sure you drink water first thing? What are those steps that you need that consistency in, or what does that look like, right? So I want you to take that journey part, and I want you to take at least 2 steps of what those first 2 steps will be in that journey. What does that look like? Because you have to think again, these last 4 months speed up. Let's be honest with ourselves and be real. It's crazy. Like the holidays, we're back to school, which is amazing. Even if you don't have kids in school, whatever else, it still applies to you. Back to school in general is just like this reset, this routine, this kind of time of year that it's like that. But then we speed up and go into the holidays, and it's like this and that, and I have 50 million things on my plate, and I'm blah, 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 blah. And often our health, our business, all of that kind of stuff can get shoved to the back burner. And so if you're saying like, I'm going to commit to this hour-long workout, I'm going to do 80-day obsession with my gut health or whatever, but you realistically know that your plate gets overloaded during the holiday season with all this school stuff, volunteering for whatever else, like showing up to do this, that party, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You have a ginormous family that you have to see on both sides and whatever, real life stuff. Is that realistic of doing the hour-long workout program and committing to that and sticking to that? And what does that look like? Or will you hit overwhelm and burnout and then go the other direction? So be realistic also with what that looks like. And again, because we're consistently evaluating, you can make a shift, but we want to be honest with ourselves and where we're at, right? We don't want to go again into that overwhelm, into that burnout. We want to be like, okay, what do my last 4 months of the year usually look like? We don't live near family. So for us, it's not quite as crazy as some people's are. Some people are going to like, they've got to split the 2 different families, and they got to see the uncle and the this and the that. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. But if that's your holiday, that's your family, and that's important to you, like, how can you work around it? Right. So, okay. Next is, what are we promoting health wise? So I say health promo, so because that obviously that encompasses so much now. We have mindset, we have um, amazing tons of fitness programs. We have obviously a ton of incredible nutrition things, right? So what's our health promotion focus? Typically, it will stem off of our personal journey, but maybe we need to be like, so again, with like for the example that Shell put out there, her personal journey is focused on the sobriety, right? And what does that look like? And building and stacking more time with that. So what is she going to promote health wise? What kind of fits with that she can share about in her stories and her posts, that she's going to be inviting people to, all of that kind of stuff? Obviously mindset has a lot to do with that. So I'm imagining growth day, but what does that look like for you? So now I want you to take your 2 minutes, and what is your health promotion focus for the rest of this year? What does that look like for you? Write it down. Again, thinking realistically, will you be working as much over the holidays? Will you be taking time off? What does that look like? Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, cool. So I'm going to read a few of these just so we have some ideas overall. And again, most people's will look different, right? Um, and we can look at other people's and get ideas and get inspired. But remember, what works best for you and what fits best for you, what will be truest to you. Not this is that's kind of like when you're a newer coach and like you look to all of these like top coaches to like copy their this is I'm saying this because this is what I've done. Copy their posts and copy their reels and copy their but that's not you, and people want you and whatever else. And it's okay to get inspired by that kind of stuff and everything, but like what people really want is you. And so a lot of times your social media and everything will come into play when you truly are who you truly are, right? I'm still a huge work in progress with that, but it's really important to focus on. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Sarah said mindset specifically related to nutrition. Like let's be real. I feel like I've done this for over 20 years now, and I've worked with women primarily. Not I would be confident to say, I've never done a poll, but 98% of women have some kind of jacked up way or approach to nutrition in their lifetime. Like we think whether you even if you haven't had like a full-on eating disorder or whatever else, which a lot have, that a lot of times we've just had really, yeah, screwed up mindset approach with when it comes to nutrition. So, okay, so that's the overall. So Sarah would have to take that and say, so what does that mean? So obviously I would imagine she's going to be promoting Growth Day. So when she's talking about nutrition and all that kind of stuff, maybe she's addressing some of the certain fears that she's lived through, sharing her story and parts of that. What else could be helpful with that? Maybe it's talking about the 2B mindset program, or maybe and how that's really unlocked her journey, or maybe it's talking about the gut health or whatever else, and how there's like the gut brain connection and how vital that is, and talking about certain statistics with it or whatever else, like, and bringing people into gut health or whatever. It could be a number of things that you could bring that back to relate it to what she's promoting, right? So again, taking that bigger focus and what are the smaller, more intentional, specific steps that she's going to take with that. So diving in and going further into that, because if we don't know, if we don't, we can have this grand idea, but if we don't have a plan, then it's probably not going to happen, right? Um, Cass said 7-day hormone health workshops in October, November, December, and prep for Belvital. 3 for 30 challenge, using these to create longer term clients. These are my gateway challenges to a longer term path. Yeah. Awesome. I was literally having that conversation over the summer with one of my like fitness mentors. She's one who helped me get into the industry in general. And she's kind of like my aunt. She's like best friends with my mom when my mom was younger. And I think Carl said this at some point too. A lot of people, again, it just in life in general right now, maybe it's because of election season, maybe it's because of recession. Who the heck knows? We go through these cycles. Brendan's touched on this too, but they're an overwhelm, right? They're an overwhelm. And we're not immune to that either. Even though we've had lots of mindset work and we've had a lot of growth and stuff, it can affect us in different ways as well, right? And so in that overwhelm, a lot of people like our total solution pack is the absolute most amazing deal. Like everybody should be getting that, in my opinion. But for some reason, that's overwhelming to people and it's too much. And even if we help them navigate and pick a program, whatever else, it's just like, oh, and then they like don't do anything or whatever, right? Or they ghost you or anything else like that. Like I'm finding that in my business, which is weird to me, but it is what it is. Like, right, you got to take it and you got to run with it. So I was saying really honing in on that 3 for 30 challenge as well, the smaller, like even just the program, just the lava, nothing else, or just Shakeology, nothing else, like keeping it super stinking simple so that they get results and then move forward from there, right? So I know for me, what my audience has been feeling and the things that I've been seeing, I'm like, total solution pack, hello, yes. But, and I'm still, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be selling those. There will be people that that's appropriate for. But overall, what I'm promoting are the smaller, simpler, non-overwhelming type of things to get people just doing the dang thing, right? So that I'm using a similar path as well. So, do you see how that works though? Okay, so taking that bigger promo and breaking it into, okay, what are the couple of small steps that I'm going to focus on to get me there? Okay. Last but not least, our business focus, our business promo. And you might be like, well, I'm promoting the business. What do you mean? What am I, what about that? You want to have a focus of who you're speaking to. And so a lot of times that's obviously who you were or who you are. Like it's related to that same thing as your journey and what you're promoting health wise and stuff like that. It goes hand in hand. But like I could take the same if I'm focusing on moms creating freedom, you know, for their family, both financially and time wise. That could be my main focus. But what am I calling it? What am I titling it each month? Even just to tweak the name and invite people to it. So it might sound like maybe fresh and new and whatever and stuff like that. Just even like I remember Melanie Mitchell talking about like busy moms build a business from or building a business from your kitchen table or busy moms building a business on the baseball fields or like getting like really specific in that kind of thing and leaning into that. Again, it doesn't mean that nobody else is going to sign up if you're not a baseball mom or whatever else, right? But when you get specific, you're talking to somebody and someone says, that's me. And then that's a lot of times when they open up, right? So, what is your business focus? What are you going to be promoting over the next 4 months? And I want you to remember, take into consideration, do people want to take on more during the holidays? Not usually. So they think, oh, overwhelm. Why would I want to start a business? Well, why would you want to start a business? I started a business in December. I signed up in December. Why would you want to start a business in December? What are the things that would make them say yes? What are the things that made you say yes? How do you work your business so that you're leading by example in those months? What does that look like? Right. Okay. So 2 minutes. And then we will wrap up before the hour. I promise. We're just gonna have a couple little last minute wrap it all in there together and talk about some tips of how to make it work.
I know we're supposed to be working, Crystal, but like the comments thread on this team like call is off the hook. Like it's giving me so much, so much. So I just want to tell you guys I love you so much. This has been so like filling my cup. So thank you for doing it, Crystal.
Awesome. I love it. I know I'm like 28 messages. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. That's great. Okay, that was 2 minutes. We'll take another 10 seconds. I can finish writing this message. Okay. To keep us on time, there's a lot. I am going to go back and read all the messages. But okay. So once again, what is our promo? Who are we focusing on, right? It's not just in general. We want to be specific in who we're speaking to. And that usually is like who we were, people who could relate to us, that kind of thing, right? And then taking little tweaks here and there, seeing how that works. Usually it takes, I'm sure if you went to Summit, you heard this too, from Kelly Dutcher. She had spoke about how like when she opened up her first like info sesh, nobody showed up the first time, but she had to stay consistent at it, right? For 2, 3, whatever, 4 months before it started happening, right? So couple of the things that I know I need to hone in on this better because this is where I have been not hitting the goals that I have each month in my business. And so instead of being like, "Ah, well, it's just harder, well, the environment, well, blah, 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 I say, okay, well, it is what it is. So it's harder. Am I just going to sit there and like give up or am I going to focus forward and figure out a way? I'm going to figure out a way. Right. And so for me, I have things like what are the small steps that I can do? I have in my business tracker talk about coaching because to me, I don't naturally, even though I love it, I don't talk about coaching on a regular basis. I have to be intentional. If I don't have time, I feel like I don't have time to write out the little blurb or whatever else to share the story, like what they said in the national makeup call, instead of just posting it up and being like, went to football practice for my kid, love the freedom that this business has provided me. I mean, that's great, but okay, good for you. Someone's gonna be like, okay, good for you. But when I took the 2 seconds to share the story of how, my mom was never around and I knew I wanted something different and da da da, and that's why I'm so grateful for this business that I shared with you guys earlier, like that hits differently, right? And so, crap, who has time for that? Like, there's certain days where I do, but coming into these next 4 months is a lot busier than my summer was. So, one of the things I can do, take some of those blurbs, right? Make a section in my notes on my phone, business blurbs, and write out 10 of them or 5 of it, whatever, write out some of them and then copy and paste into my stories that will apply. And we are always saying the same thing. We have to say it how many times? Like hundreds of times, literally, before people actually like, oh, okay, right? It's that advertisement. I don't know if it was on a wake up call or if maybe it was a wake up call 2 weeks ago. It was somewhere that I heard it where it was like, I had to literally, oh, yeah, it was the guy on the wake up call. P90X. Like he didn't just sign up for P90X. He had to see it like 100 times, right? That's what we're doing. It's not what we're doing isn't working. It's because you need to be consistent. People need to see it over and over and over again. Are you talking about it enough? And so for me, I naturally just post a football, love the freedom that this business provided me. Like, what does that even mean? Nobody knows what that means. So I have to be more intentional to talk about coaching and I have to be intentional to create those things to be able to put that out there if I want to grow in signing up more coaches. There's a step, there's this couple small, simple steps that will help me to move forward in doing that. Right. So that's what I want you to say. Okay. You have your big business focus, who you're focusing on, who you're speaking to. Now, what are the couple of 1 or 2 small steps that you need to start taking consistently? And so here's the thing, you might have like this 10-step list. That is fantastic. If you are that planner and that organized, kudos to you. That's amazing. But I need you to start with 1, 2 max because what happens is you start doing all the things. And then again, we hit that overwhelm, we hit that burnout, we hit that place where we're like, I can't do any of the things. Okay, so these last 5 minutes, that's what we're going to talk about. And let me scroll down so we can see what the heck people are saying. But okay, so what does this look like? Again, the same thing that I told you, let's be realistic with your fitness journey. Like if you're like, yes, I'm going to crush 80-day obsession. I have time for hour-long workouts. Amazing. Maybe you have more time during this season of life. Or are you I need to really focus in on my 20-minute workouts because that's what fits in my life, whatever else, like, sorry. Vice um, but, uh, yeah, so I can't read those things, I get distracted. Um, so what does that look like realistically for right now in your business? Okay. So again, are you the one who has to see five different Thanksgiving dinners? I know not everyone has Thanksgiving. What do you guys have in Canada? Whatever you celebrate in Canada. You celebrate something around the same time, I think.
October is Thanksgiving
Oh,
for
there you
us.
go. So you have an early Thanksgiving. So if you have like, five different Thanksgiving dinners that you have to go to, that's very different than the person that has to go to one usually or whatever. Like what does your life look like realistically? I've got 3 kids and each one is doing a sport and each one is doing some kind of, music or creative endeavor. And then we have the different co-ops that we're part of and blah, 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 like all this stuff, right? So how am I managing that and where am I fitting in the time that I'm going to work? What does that look like realistically? So I'll give you a couple of ideas and I want you guys to chime in the chat as well of what that looks like for you if you have successfully navigated this kind of thing in the past. So for me, what does work look like during busy seasons? Certain things that help me to stay consistent. And again, this will probably work for you. You might have to shift a little bit because we're not all exactly the same, but batch work works for me. I am a batcher. Now, there have been seasons in my business. I've been doing this for almost 12 years. Seasons in my business that I have done the bat every day or whatever, and I've done small doses at a time. I started out my business that way, but for me, batch work is where it's at because there's times where like I have all the plans and intentions and then that day goes to crap and I didn't get that done and then I have it hanging over my head and I feel a wave of like guilt or whatever else and it's my own issue or whatever, but I just don't like that feeling of like, that was the reason that I could never that I struggled with, what's that thing? Tracy, my coach Tracy, she does it. She uses the tracking system or whatever, and she is amazing at it, and it works so amazing for her. For me, when it told me I had, like, 60 follow-ups and whatever else, and I was behind and everything else, I was like, "Ah, no, no." So, it's gonna be different for everybody, but that's what it looks like. So batch work has been amazing for me. So for me, I think too, like Brendan's what he talks about, like when we start the week off on like Mondays or Tuesdays, sometime early in the week, I'm going to do a big invite session, right? Big invite session of what that looks like, whatever I'm inviting to at the time. And usually for me, I think too, when I talk about binge inviting, I look at the month as a whole. And so to set myself up for success, I typically want to hit, like, that's always the goal is to hit Success Club before the midway of the month. And so I focus on the last week of the month and the first week of the month is my main inviting binge sessions. So most of my invites are happening the last week of the month and the first week of the month to set me up for that. And all the follow ups are coming in with that. So I'm spending more time on that stuff at those times. And I think that honestly works pretty well with the holidays and stuff too, because the holidays tend to be towards the end of the month, right? And so at the beginning of the month, I can have a big surge of work where I spend maybe a little bit of extra time in that week or two. And then the other 2 weeks, I'm still doing the things and stuff, but it's not as crazy. So I do my big batches, my big binges at the beginning of the week, typically, whatever that looks like, Monday, Tuesday, sometime in that range. Maybe it's Sunday. And the last week and the first week to set things up for the month well, right? Um, I think too, like I have where I focus more of my posting on the fitness, that encompasses all health, whatever, but the health promotion of things that those couple of weeks that last and first, and then in the middle weeks, I focus more on speaking about coaching and inviting to that consistently. So it puts me in that rhythm. Um, And then I think a couple of the things that Brendan did that are helpful for me too is like that, again, that Monday action, you take deep action at the beginning of the week. So you really feel it's like that you get that win. It's like getting the quick win, right? It's like a 3-day refresh. It's like get the quick win. And then you have the Friday finishers, right? So what are the non-negotiables? Like following up, doing those kinds of things those are the Friday finishers. And I think what's been really super valuable is that Sunday plan and prep time. Um, I used to be like, I didn't have enough time for this. I don't have whatever, blah, blah, blah. Blah. And then I realized a couple of years ago, no, if I make time for this, then it makes everything else so much easier and smoother, and I'm not as frazzled and crazy, right? So I take my time to plan out my week. I have an idea of what my posts are, if not written out or whatever, and what they're going to be talking about, right? So, because I don't know about you, but that takes me, it does not come naturally to me. So it takes a lot of brain power to get that going. So my posts are planned out for the week. I'm plans of like, I have again, that planner that I use for what's going on and when, so I know when I can work, when I'm taking time in between all of my kids' activities and stuff like that. What does that look like? Right. And I'm tracking for me, I personally have to track like on I have at the bottom of my thing, this is my business activity tracker. I have to track because if I don't, I'll be like, well, I'm doing all the things. Yeah, sure, I'm doing it. But like, oh crap, I haven't invited for like a week and a half, like actual solid invites or something like that, right? So I have to track it, or like, oh no, I thought I've been checking into my bod group, but I haven't for the last 3 days. Like what happened? It's easy for me to get lost. So I have to like check an actual box if I did it or not. Right. So that's been helpful for that. So planning out what I'm focusing on, what am I talking about? And what does that look like, is helpful to me, because if I'm not intentional with it, it most likely won't happen. It's the same thing. Like if you're not intentional in your marriage, is it going to be good? If you're not intentional with your kids, are they going to grow up to be what you hope they would? If you're not intentional with your fitness, are you instantly going to get your results? Probably not, right? If you're not intentional in your business, you're just winging it, and then you're going to be in the same place in January and setting the same goals over and over and over again, right? And so we know better, so we do better, right? And that's why we're here and we're being intentional with this. Okay. That's it. That's it. We're done. I'm going to stop